I work with Computer Aid, which is the biggest NGO and most experienced NGO working in refurbishment, professional refurbishment of computers, desktop and laptop computers for reuse in developing areas of the world, mainly in education and other sectors of non-profit and health. These are computers from the UK, and they're sent for us, for the most part, to African countries, 75%, and the rest to mostly Latin American countries and rest of the world as well. Well, definitely in developing areas, two main factors are the high cost of connectivity and the lack of connectivity access, especially in rural areas. And the key factor that really keeps people offline entirely of ICT potential is unreliable access to electricity. Well, clearly there's a growing interest in how living conditions and economic opportunities, but also social and social opportunities as well, can be shaped by availability of certain degree of connectivity. And connectivity, I think, you can look at it in a number of ways. It could be connectivity to the internet directly, or via mobile devices to services distributed through SMS or other things that can have an impact. For example, in the areas where I have most experience, for example in East Africa, there's a lot of discussion at the moment on whether information regarding agricultural services, not just prices, but also agricultural practices, spread through both the internet and mobile devices, mobile phones, can have quite a lot of impact in not just accessing new markets, but also innovating on the agricultural practices. And if you think about how the use of computers and the share of computer data, for example, in meteorological institutes, can have an impact in preparing much more accurate and localized forecasts that can help farmers gain better harvest and more output for the little input that they can invest. So it can have a huge impact. Same can be said for health and education. Clearly, it's fundamental in networking and especially for people that are working in rural areas, and at some time they can be feeling extremely lonely. I think it's quite important in creating a sense of networking through different people or organizations that are working in completely different areas, but at times share a lot of the same issues and needs. And therefore being able to network with them, not just in person, but starting with online networking can be. A kiosk can make a difference if it is listening to the needs of the community. A kiosk per se doesn't necessarily make a difference, and my experience is that in many cases a kiosk is just a very nice and trendy way to say that you are helping remote communities gain access, but how that center is used is very crucial. I mean, if there is an attention to the needs of a specific community in terms of listening to what it is that they could be potentially benefiting from and helping them achieve that in terms of training and a little bit of help in trying to connect to the resources that might be helpful for them to begin with, that can have a huge spillover effect, because then once realize the potential, then the opportunities can only grow. But it's not just the kiosk, it's how the kiosk is run and how collaborative and open and participatory the process is. It is not so true that there's no incentives. Clearly, there needs to be a shift in some of the policies. For example, in my experience, there are some cases of double taxation of in certain markets I can relate to the mobile telecommunications sector in Kenya, for example, where not only mobile providers are charged for duty and VAT tax on the profits from the telephone calls they make, people make, but also on a quite relevant, quite high duty import tax on the base stations that then can have, could have a higher impact and the growth at rural level. However, for rural development especially, which I think is very key for overall development at this point, it is far more important that true universal access policies are put in place and enforced by various countries, because in the end it is by far the most important aspect in really achieving rural connectivity. The same can be said about electricity issues, which is really underlying the whole issue of development in many areas. And the only way will be to invest a whole lot in renewable energies in the short, medium and long term, and in making sure that rural electrification projects take advantage of such technologies, whether they're hybrid of solar and wind power, whether it's a micro hydro projects or solar projects per se. And such projects do need a lot of financing, and they could bring together private sector and public sector by favoring reduction in taxes, charges, and financing opportunities that could be attractive for both sectors.